In this video, we're going to demonstrate the use of ASCOM with OnStep. ASCOM is a standards for astronomy equipment, and you can find the major ASCOM software by going to ascom-standards.org, and you want to download the platform. The platform is all the major software that comes with ASCOM. There's some debugging tools, all kinds of stuff. So once you get that installed, then you will move on to, you can search, or you can go to stellarjourney.com and look for the ASCOM OnStep driver. You will download this software. This software is developed by Howard, who's the major developer programmer of OnStep. If you feel so inclined, give him a donation or a little support. He also has some software called Stellarium, which I'm going to demo with ASCOM. Gives you great insight on exactly what OnStep is doing. It's probably out of all the planetarium softwares, this one shows the most detail of what OnStep is doing. So download those two pieces of software, get them installed. You may need a reboot to refresh things. It's always usually a good idea. So in order to start off, we'll hit the Windows key, and I tend to start off with the ASCOM software called ASCOM Device Hub. Think of this as kind of the hub of all your equipment using ASCOM. You can see telescope, dome, focuser. Those are kind of three major categories. What we want to do is telescope. We go to Tools, Setup. We'll do telescope setup. Right now it's using the simulator. We use Choose. If we wanted to see the properties of the simulator, we can view that here. Essentially, it's just a simulation, so you can do bench testing. We should see OnStep telescope as one of our choices. So we'll select that. So now we're going into the properties of the ASCOM driver. Mine was already programmed to find my device on COM7. Yours will just come up as blank, and there are two methods of connecting your OnStep computer to Windows or to ASCOM, which is a Windows only piece of software. They do have an Alpaca, they call it, version where it's supposed to be more, let's just say, just ASCOM as Windows. So what I'm doing right now is I have a USB cable going from my laptop to the OnStep computer. There is a micro USB plug on the actual computer. Do not get it confused with the micro USB that's on the hand controller. A lot of Stellarium people are used to plugging into the hand controller to get a serial connection over USB. With OnStep, the micro USB port on the hand controller is for reprogramming the hand controller if there were any updates or such that the firmware on the hand controller would need to be updated. So what I am doing to control OnStep is not plugging into the hand controller. We're plugging right into the computer on the side of the mount. So USB cable from the laptop to the computer on the side of the mount. And when you do plug that in, what you will do is you will get a serial port. And it came up on my laptop as serial port COM7. That will change on yours. It could be, I believe, anywhere from COM1 to, I don't know how many COM ports there are, but around 15, I would guess, 12, somewhere in there. So you will need to look for the COM port that OnStep connected to your laptop as. If you don't see a COM port, try reconnecting the cable. You should hear a little kind of that standard beep you're used to, or notification when you plug a USB device in. So when we pick COM7, it's going to start communicating from ASCOM to the OnStep computer. So we were able to make a successful connection. You'll see it's reporting back the version of software that's running on the OnStep computer. Lat long elevation. You can do set date time on connect. I recommend anytime you're using computer, Android, Wi-Fi, anything interfacing with OnStep, you have that computer set date time if possible, and GPS coordinates if possible, such as the Android application, which I have a video on that on the YouTube channel. It just cuts out possible errors as long as your laptop is set up correctly with the proper date time and the proper GPS. So this is kind of the main panel of OnStep's mount control. So we got a successful connection. Now I will go into just very briefly, if you are using Wi-Fi, you can connect to the Wi-Fi address. I have a video on the YouTube channel about using Wi-Fi, and just to keep things simple, if you join the Wi-Fi network, and much like what we show in the video where you load up the website using 192.168.0.1, this is important. :9998 is the port number. So this is the IP address, and this is the port number that's used to do the communication. So that's a : 192.168.0.1 : 9998. That is the address you will use to do it via Wi-Fi. So what you would do is go down, connect to Wi-Fi, connect to OnStep, get your Wi-Fi connection going so that your laptop is now on that Wi-Fi network with the OnStep computer. You would punch in this address, and then you would switch over to IP address. I'm not going to do it now because we're not hooked up on Wi-Fi. But once you select IP address, it will use this information over here to go find the OnStep computer, and you will get the same dialog here. So that's how you do connection of ASCOM to OnStep via serial USB or Wi-Fi. Okay, so we got successful connection. We'll hit OK. We will hit OK. You can see we're saying OnStep, ASCOM OnStep. We'll hit OK. You can do a connect telescope right here. What you've done is set up, you've configured the driver to connect to your OnStep computer, and you can see we are connected now. So we will disconnect. Alright, so that's one example of using the ASCOM hub to connect to your OnStep computer. Okay, let's take this another step further. So another popular piece of software to use to control your mount is Stellarium. It's a very feature-rich program as far as a planetarium software. One of my personal favorites. So in order to connect the mount to Stellarium, we'll go to Configuration window. We'll go to Plugins. We'll go to the bottom, Telescope Control. Load at startup will always bring up this control panel, or at least have this plugin enabled so that it's ready to use. We will do Add. We will select an ASCOM telescope. We will name it CGE Pro OnStep. And then we'll come down and choose the ASCOM telescope. We'll get our the dialog that we're used to seeing. We will select OnStep. We will verify the properties. COM7, still the COM port that our USB cable is using. And you can see we have a connection. Hit OK. 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 Now let's do connect. So now we are connected. You'll see the telescope is pointing at Polaris. I did a reset of the controller just in case you're I think we last off in the last demo at Dubé, but a reset of the on-step controller for this video. So now we're pointing at Polaris. If we want to go back over to Dubé, we would come down and select our telescope icon down here. And the way Stellarium works is you select your objects that it's highlighted. You say, okay, well, I want to go to the current object that I've selected. And you do a slew. And you can see our telescope is now slewing over to Dubé. So this is a brief introduction to using OnStep with ASCOM and Planetarium software. So we just showed Sky Planetarium from Howard, and now Stellarium. So let's go ahead and we'll disconnect. One last thing we will show is PhD guiding. A lot of people are doing astrophotography and using PhD to auto guide. So under equipment, you will want to again pick the ASCOM OnStep telescope, and you can do configure, and you will see that familiar dialog box that we're used to seeing when using ASCOM. We'll hit OK. From here, I am just bench testing, so I do not have a camera hooked up. I suppose my webcam. But there are ways of connecting to remote cameras. Indy, I personally use Indy over ASCOM. I'm more of a Linux guy versus a Windows guy. So you can see locally connected USB cameras. You can do Indy, you can do ASCOM cameras, but you want to select your guide camera here. And once you have both of those things connected, you can then start using the PhD software to auto guide. So that's a brief overview of PhD. There's a lot more goes into that software also. So this was a good overview of using ASCOM with OnStep. There's a lot more to it. There is a learning curve. Cloudy Nights is one of the most excellent resources that we have for astronomy and astronomy software. There is an OnStep groups.io group that I frequent quite regularly and help people out. So we will stop it here, and that's ASCOM using OnStep.